岁郭承曦 12 years old. For this lesson, we'll be continuing on for another lesson of methods of limit calculation. For this lesson of methods of limit calculation, we will have another example over here where we are given limit x approaches to negative 1, x cubed minus ax squared minus x plus 4 over x plus 1 is equal to b. And we are supposed to find the values of a and b using what we are given over here. So just like other lessons thus far, we are going to use three methods. So over here what we'll have is, so let's start off with the first method. So our first method, method 1, is going to be L'Hopital's rule. So for this part, first I'll copy down the question. So for L'Hopital's rule, you use it when there's like 0 over 0, right? So over here, because if you substitute this part inside the x inside, negative 1 plus 1 is equals to 0. And thus the numerator would also be equal to 0, where we have 0 over 0 causing us to use the L'Hopital's rule. And here we'll have we use the L'Hopital's rule. The denominator over here becomes 0, while for this part it just becomes 1. So you can just ignore it because over 1 is the same thing as itself. And now what we have here is 3x squared minus 2ax minus 1, while the 4 just becomes 0. And now if we substitute it inside, it will become a determinable form. So over here you would put it inside and you have 3 plus the negative over here, the square, so it's positive, while the negative over here cancels with this one, thus being still a positive. 2a minus 1 is, so this is equals to 2 plus 2a, which is equals to b. So what can we tell here? So over here what we'll have is that 2a b minus, so over here b minus 2a is basically equals to 2, right? Well, over here another thing we have to take note is that for this part, this will have to be equals to 0. So we're going to let limit x approaches to negative 1, x cubed minus ax squared minus x plus 4 be equals to 0. So for this part, what we'll have here is that so negative 1 cubed will become negative 1, then the square over here will still have the minus a, then after negative, negative, positive, plus 1 plus 4. Over here for this part, this will be equals to 4 minus a, which is equals to 0. And thus a will be equals to 4. Okay? And since a is equals to 4, so b will be equals to 2 plus 2a, right? So b will be equals to 2 plus 8, which is equals to 10. And here we have our a and b. So that is for our first method. Now moving on to our second method. Moving on to method 2, what we have over here we'll be using the method of factorization. So for factorization, we will have a fx over here, whereas so we'll let fx be the numerator over here. And since this is a 0 over 0 as shown above, if you substitute negative 1, so we have already said during the L'Hopital's rule before, well over here if you substitute the negative 1 inside, you're going to get negative 1 minus a plus 1 plus 4 where you're going to end up with the 4 minus a being equals to 0 because of the 0 over 0 form, and thus a will be equals to 4. And now that we have gotten this part, we can start solving the question where as x approaches to -1, and then after that we will have x cubed minus a. So for the first part, we just copy down the question. So for this part, now that we have gotten this, we can substitute the a inside and we'll just solve this whole thing. So x cubed minus 4x squared minus x plus 4 over x plus 1. What we will have over here would be, so over here for this part, since we are factorizing over here, we can actually split this into 2 parts in case you don't know. So for this, we'll have one part whereas we'll have an extra x and the other part is basically about the 4 and all, okay? So what we'll have is that, so we'll have x cubed minus, so over here for this part we'll take out, so we'll have the x cubed minus x, whereas when you take out one of the x, it will become a x squared minus 1. And if you didn't realize that, it's basically a squared minus b squared. So here you have x minus 1 and an x plus 1. Just now I've already told you that you just change this into 2 parts and you group these 2 together and then you group these 2 together. But what happens when you group these 2 together is that instead of taking out x like the first part, we will be taking out a 4 and negative because so over here 4x minus 1 and then here you have x plus 1 2, okay? So this is what you're going to get, and over here, so obviously over here what you're going to have for this part will be x minus 4 times x minus 1 times x plus 1, and then x plus 1, and then you simplify over here, you're going to get a limit x approaches to -1, x minus 4 times x minus 1, where now that you have gotten this part, you can immediately sub it in. And when you substitute it inside, what you're going to get over here would be here -5 times -2, which is equals to 10. But wait, what is this supposed to be equals to? This is supposed to be equals to b. And thus we have shown that b is equals to 10. So for our first method, we also got the same results, where we got a equals to 4 and b equals to 10, right? And so take a quick look before I erase it and do. Never mind. So over here, now moving on to method 3, we're going to use partial fraction.